Listen to me very carefully, because what I am about to tell you is not a political opinion. It is not a conspiracy theory, and it is not something you are going to hear on the evening news, because the evening news is owned by the same people who just won. The Supreme Court of the United States just handed down a 6-3 ruling, and while you were arguing about it on social media, while you were picking your team and waving your flag, the wealthiest and most powerful institutions on this planet were repositioning their assets, moving their capital, and quietly laughing at every single person who failed to understand what just happened. This ruling is not a political event. It is a financial event. It is a transfer of power, and every dollar of wealth you have not yet protected is now in play. This is not the time to feel things. This is the time to think. And if you do not think right now, you are going to be absolutely destroyed. Now, before I go any further, you need to hit that subscribe button right now. And I mean right now, not at the end of the video, not when you feel like it. Right now, the information I am about to give you costs financial advisors upwards of $500 to $1,000 an hour to deliver, and I am giving it to you for free. The only price you pay is 30 seconds of your time to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because this channel is the only place where someone is going to talk to you like an adult and give you the cold, hard truth about what is coming for your money. I do not care about your political affiliation. I do not care whether you cheered this ruling or whether you are furious about it. I do not care about your feelings. I care about your money, and right now, your money is in serious danger. Let me tell you exactly what this ruling did, stripped of all the political theater, because the theater is the point. The theater is designed to keep you emotional and distracted while the mechanism underneath does its work. Every major expansion of centralized governmental and institutional power in modern economic history has followed the same pattern, and that pattern ends the same way every single time. It ends with the systematic destruction of middle class purchasing power. Do not take my word for it. Take the word of history. When the Weimar Republic began its unchecked government expansion in the early 1920s, ordinary German citizens thought politics was the issue. Economists knew it was a monetary issue. Between 1921 and 1923, the German mark lost approximately 1 trillion times its value. A loaf of bread that cost 160 marks in 1922 cost 200 billion marks by November of 1923. The people who survived that catastrophe with their wealth intact were not the people who voted correctly. They were not the people who protested loudest. They were the people who understood that when government power expands without structural restraint, the currency always pays the price. Fast forward to 2008, when the Federal Reserve and the United States Treasury decided that certain financial institutions were too important to be held accountable to the market. They made a decision that cost middle-class Americans an estimated $16 trillion in lost household wealth, according to Federal Reserve estimates. Not the banks. You, the average American household, saw their net worth drop by approximately 20% in less than 18 months. The people who positioned themselves correctly before that crisis did not just survive it, they multiplied their wealth during it. The numbers do not lie, and the number one variable that separates the people who win in these moments from the people who get wiped out is the speed of recognition. How fast do you recognize what is actually happening? Strip away the political emotion and act on the financial reality underneath. Most people never get there. Most people are still debating the politics of 2008, while the next wave is already forming above their heads. Now let us talk about the mechanism that will actually reach into your pocket, because this is where it gets mathematical, and this is where most people check out, which is exactly why most people stay broke. The mechanism is monetary policy, and it is already in motion. Every time in recorded modern economic history that centralized governmental power has expanded significantly, it has been accompanied by one of two things: direct taxation or indirect taxation through inflation. Direct taxation is politically difficult because people can see it. Inflation is the preferred tool of every government that has ever overspent its mandate, because inflation is invisible to the financially illiterate. And in this country, that is approximately 73% of the adult population, according to the FINRA Investor Education Foundation. Inflation is a tax on cash. Every dollar you hold in a savings account, every dollar sitting in a checking account, every dollar under your mattress is being actively taxed by the debasement of the currency. You are broke and you do not even know it. Cash is trash. I have been saying this for years. The Federal Reserve has expanded its balance sheet from approximately $900 billion before 2008 to over $8 trillion today. That is roughly a 900% expansion of the money supply in 16 years. Your wages did not go up 900%. Your savings did not go up 900%. Your purchasing power was robbed in broad daylight while you were busy watching the political circus. And this ruling just opened the door for the next act of that circus to begin. When institutional and governmental power is affirmed without restraint by the highest court in the land, the market does not miss that signal. Bond markets move first. Currency traders move second. And retail investors, which is you get the information last, which means you at last, which means you lose. Let me now make this personal because I want you to feel the specific weight of what I am describing. Let us say you have $100,000 in a savings account earning 2% annually. You feel safe. You feel responsible. You have done what you were told to do. Here is what is actually happening to that money. The official Consumer Price Index for 2023 reported inflation at approximately 3.4%. Independent economists, using methodologies similar to pre-1980 Bureau of Labor Statistics calculations, such as those published by Shadow Government Statistics, estimate actual consumer inflation closer to 8 to 10% annually. Let us use a conservative number. Let us use 6% real inflation. At 6% annual inflation, your $100,000 savings account earning 2% is losing 4% of its real purchasing power every single year. That is $4,000 per year in silent, invisible, government-sanctioned theft over 10 years. Using the rule of 72, your real purchasing power halves in approximately 12 years at 6%. Inflation, that $100,000 becomes the equivalent of $50,000 in purchasing power in 12 years. You did not spend it. You did not gamble it. You did nothing wrong by the conventional wisdom you were taught, and you still lost half your wealth. Now imagine what happens when the government expands its spending authority, its regulatory power, and its ability to direct monetary policy without the structural restraints that were already weakening. The inflation trajectory does not stay flat. It accelerates. Your 401k is not safe either. A standard target date retirement fund holds a significant percentage in bonds, which are the single worst asset to hold during inflationary periods because bonds pay fixed nominal returns that are destroyed by inflation in real terms. The average American retirement account lost approximately 23% of its value in 2022 alone, according to Vanguard Research. And most people just watched it happen and did nothing because they did not understand what was happening, and no one in their life was willing to tell them the truth. Stop being a victim and let me give you the blueprint, because winners do not just identify problems, they solve them with precision and they do it fast. The solution is not complicated, but it requires you to override the financial programming you received from people who were themselves financially programmed to keep you dependent on institutions that profit from your dependency. Here is the mathematical framework. Your first priority is eliminating cash drag. No more than 5% of your investable net worth should be sitting in cash or cash equivalent instruments in this environment. The rest needs to be working. Your second allocation is hard assets, and I mean real, tangible, historically proven stores of value. Gold has maintained purchasing power across every single major currency collapse in the last 3,000 years. Everyone, a reasonable allocation for the current macro environment is 10 to 15% of your investable portfolio in physical gold and silver. Not gold ETFs, not gold certificates. Physical metal that you control. Your third allocation is income-producing equities with pricing power, companies that sell things people need regardless of economic conditions, companies with strong balance sheets, and consistent dividend growth histories, companies in energy, consumer staples, and healthcare. A minimum of 40% of your portfolio should be in this category. Your fourth allocation is real estate, specifically leverage real estate, where the debt is fixed and the asset is inflation adjusted. When inflation rises, your rents rise. Your mortgage payment does not. This is how the wealthy class uses inflation as a tool rather than a weapon against themselves. A leveraged rental property in a supply-constrained market is one of the most powerful inflation hedges ever designed. If you do not have access to direct real estate ownership, look at REITs in the industrial and residential sectors as a partial substitute. The remaining allocation, no more than 20 to 25%, can be in growth equities with strong cash generating businesses, not speculative technology, not meme stocks, businesses that generate real cash, real earnings, and real dividends. Write this down. Execute it. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment was yesterday and the second best moment is today. Now I want to tell you something that makes me genuinely frustrated, because I have sat across from people in boardrooms and I have sat across from people who are losing their homes. And I can tell you that the difference between them is almost never intelligence, almost never opportunity in the way that word is commonly used, and almost never luck. The difference is almost always one thing: the willingness to face a difficult truth and act on it before it is comfortable to do so. Most people watching this video right now are going to do absolutely nothing. I have studied human financial behavior for decades, and I can tell you with statistical certainty that the majority of people who receive accurate, timely, actionable financial information do not act on it. Do you know why? Because of something called normalcy bias, which is the psychological tendency to believe that because things have been a certain way for a long time, they will continue to be that way regardless of the evidence in front of you. The brain interprets stability as permanence, and the brain is catastrophically wrong in moments of genuine systemic change. The second trap is political tribalism, and this one is particularly lethal to financial health. In this specific moment, half of you watching this video are relieved by this ruling, and half of you are furious. And both halves are using that emotion as a substitute for financial analysis. The winners in this environment are the people who are neither relieved nor furious. They are repositioning. The third trap is what I call institutional deference, which is the deeply conditioned belief that someone, somewhere, a financial advisor, a government program, a pension fund, is managing this on your behalf, and you do not need to understand it yourself. No one is managing this for you. Your financial advisor is managing it for their revenue model. The government is managing it for its spending needs. The pension fund is managing it for its actuarial assumptions. None of those interests are your interests, and none of those parties will feel your pain when the gap between those interests and your well-being becomes impossible to bridge. The people who understand this, the people who take personal, mathematical, unemotional responsibility for their own financial positioning right now, are the ones who are going to look back at this moment as the turning point. Everyone else is going to look back at this moment as the beginning of the end of their financial security. So here's where we land, and I am going to be very direct with you because that is the only thing I know how to be. You came to this video for a reason. Some part of you already knows that something is wrong, already feels the gap between what you are being told and what you are experiencing, already senses that the system you were taught to trust is not designed with your prosperity as its primary objective. That instinct is correct. The Supreme Court ruling is not the cause of the problem. It is the latest confirmation of a structural reality that has been building for decades. The cause of the problem is financial illiteracy, and the cure is exactly what you are doing right now. Except you have to take it further. You have to take it from watching to doing. I want to ask you one question, and I want you to answer it honestly. Not to me, but to yourself. Are you going to be a winner or a loser? A winner acts on this information today. A winner reallocates, repositions, and protects. A loser watches this video, agrees with everything I said, feels very smart for understanding it, and then goes back to doing exactly what they were doing before. The choice is entirely yours, and the consequences are entirely yours. Subscribe, share this with one person whose financial future you actually care about, and get to work. The market does not wait for you to feel ready.